The Vaylani were a peaceful species. They had thin bodies and skin that glowed softly in the dark. Their bones were light like bird bones. Their world had low gravity. And the most dangerous animal on their planet was a slow creature that ate plants. They had never known war. They had never needed soldiers. For 300 years, they had been part of the Galactic Concord, a union of many alien species. The Vaylani gave the galaxy beautiful art, deep philosophy, and powerful medicines made from the glowing forests of their homeworld. Then the Kreth came. The Kreth Dominion was everything the Vaylani were not. They were slavers. They moved from world to world, taking whole species and forcing them to work in terrible camps. They had done this to 19 species before, when the Kreth warships filled the sky above Valen Prime. The Vaylani had nothing to fight back with. No weapons. No armies. They did not even understand how beings could hurt each other on such a large scale. Ambassador Lyrith was old. He was the leader of the Vaylani delegation to the Galactic Concord. He stood in the communication chamber of the capital city, watching the dark shapes of enemy ships block out the stars. Around him, his assistants were crying. Some had fallen to the floor. They could not understand what was happening to their world. The bombing had started 3 days ago. The Kreth were not trying to kill everyone yet. They were breaking the spirit of the Vaylani first. They destroyed hospitals. They destroyed schools. They sent messages saying that surrender was the only choice. Lyrith had sent requests for help to every species in the Concord. The answers came back the same each time. We are sorry. We cannot help. The Kreth are too strong. We must think of our own people. The Concord was afraid. They had rules against war. They had no armies. Each species protected itself, and the Vaylani had nothing to protect themselves with. But there was one more option. One frequency that had never been used. One species that the Concord spoke about in whispers. The Deathworlders, the humans. Lyrith's assistant, a young female named Syra, looked at him with wide eyes. Ambassador, you cannot. The other species warned us about them. They say humans are dangerous. They say humans are violent by nature. They evolved on a world that tries to kill everything on it. What choice do we have? Lyrith asked quietly. He looked out the window at the burning city. The Kreth will take our children. They will put them in chains. They will work them until they die. Is that better than asking the Deathworlders for help? Syra had no answer. Lyrith walked to the old communication panel. The emergency frequency was marked in red. It had been installed 50 years ago, when Earth first joined the Concord. The humans had insisted on it. They said if anyone ever needed help badly enough, they should use this frequency. No one had ever used it. Everyone was too afraid of what might answer. Lyrith pressed the button. He spoke slowly and clearly into the microphone. This is Ambassador Lyrith of Valen Prime. We are facing extinction. The Kreth Dominion is destroying our world. Our people have no weapons. We have no soldiers. We are asking for help. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us. He sent the message and sat down heavily. His old bones ached. He did not know if anyone would answer. He did not know if the humans would care about a species they had never met. Far across the galaxy, in the Sol system, a young woman sat at a communication station on Luna Base. Her name was Sarah Chen. She was 24 years old, and she had been working the night shift for 6 months. Nothing exciting ever happened on the night shift. Then her screen lit up red. Sarah sat up straight. She had never seen this alert before. The code on the screen said, Extinction Level Threat. Civilian Population. Request immediate intervention. She read the message 3 times. Her hands were shaking when she forwarded it to her commander. Within 1 hour, the message had reached the highest levels of Earth's government. Admiral Chen Wei-Lin stood before the United Earth Defense Council. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had commanded ships for 30 years. The Vaylani are 3 weeks from total destruction, she said. Her voice was steady. The Kreth are slavers. They will not kill everyone. They will take the survivors and force them to work in labor camps. The Galactic Concord will not help. They are too scared of the Kreth. The council members looked at each other. One of them, an old man with a tired face, spoke up. The Velani are not our allies. We have never even met them. Why should we risk our soldiers for strangers? Admiral Chen looked at him. Because they asked. Because they have no one else. Because if we do not help them, no one will. The room was quiet. The Kreth have done this 19 times before, Chen continued. 19 species are now slaves. If we do nothing, the Velani will be the 20th. And then there will be a 21st. And a 22nd. When does it stop? The council voted. It took them 11 minutes. The order came down that night. Operation Silent Thunder was approved. Admiral Chen would lead the fleet. They would leave in 6 hours. In her quarters, Chen looked at a photograph of her daughter. The girl was 7 years old. She had her mother's eyes. We do this so they never have to, Chen whispered. Then she put on her uniform and walked to her ship. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Lyrith sat in the dark, waiting for an answer he was not sure would come. He did not know that the Deathworlders were already on their way. Commander Vorath stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled. He was called Vorath the Unbroken because he had never lost a battle. He had conquered 19 worlds. He knew how conquest worked. First, you broke their hope. You destroyed their cities slowly. You let them see that no help was coming. You let the fear grow until it became bigger than anything else. Then they surrendered. They always surrendered. The Velani were already breaking. Their leaders had sent messages offering anything for peace. They offered resources. They offered territory. They offered themselves as servants. Vorath was not in a hurry. He had 200 warships around this planet. His soldiers numbered in the millions. The Velani had nothing. The Galactic Concord was too afraid to help. This conquest would be easy. On the 7th day of the siege, something strange happened. The sensors on Vorath's ship began to fail. First one, then another, then all of them at once. The screens that showed the positions of his fleet went dark. The communication systems filled with static. Vorath called for his technical officers. They ran tests. They checked systems. Commander, one officer said, his voice shaking. It is not our equipment. Something is blocking our signals. Something out there. Vorath looked out the window at the dark space around his fleet. He saw nothing. Only stars. Only the planet below. Find out what it is, he ordered. Now, before his officers could respond, something appeared on the edge of their formation. A single ship. It came out of faster-than-light travel in a flash of light, directly in front of Vorath's flagship. The ship was small. It was painted dark gray. On its side were words in a language Vorath did not know. The words said, UES. Retribution. Vorath laughed. One ship? They sent one ship? He turned to his weapons officer. Open a channel. I want to see who is stupid enough to face the Kreth Dominion alone. The screen flickered. A face appeared. Vorath had never seen a human before. The face was strange to him. Small eyes, flat teeth, soft skin the color of brown wood. The creature was small, much smaller than a Kreth warrior. This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Navy, the creature said. Her voice was calm, like she was discussing the weather. You have 18 minutes to withdraw from Velani space. This is your only warning. For a moment, Vorath could not speak. Then he laughed again. Louder this time. His bridge crew joined him. You threaten me? Vorath said. You, a tiny creature from some unknown world? You threaten the Kreth Dominion with one ship? The human did not laugh. She did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She just looked at Vorath, with steady eyes. Patient eyes. "Who said anything about one ship?" she asked. Behind the Kreth fleet, 12 more human ships appeared. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They were dark, almost invisible against the black of space. They had been hiding behind a gas giant, using its mass to cover their approach. The Kreth navigation computers said this maneuver was impossible. The calculations needed were too complex. The margin for error was too small. Any mistake would send a ship into the heart of the planet. Humans called this maneuver threading the needle. They practiced it until they could do it in their sleep. Captain Marcus Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, the lead destroyer. He was a tall man, with dark skin and a shaved head. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, showing 200 Kreth warships. "All weapons ready," his first officer reported, targeting their command ships. "Wait for the Admiral's signal," Marcus said calmly. Not 1 second before. On the Retribution, Admiral Chen watched her countdown timer. 18 minutes. She had given Vorath 18 minutes because that was how long it would take for her destroyers to reach optimal firing positions. Vorath did not use those 18 minutes to retreat. He used them to bring his fleet into attack formation around Chen's single ship. "You are surrounded," Vorath said, his face appearing on her screen again. "You have no escape. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." Admiral Chen smiled. It was a small smile that did not reach her eyes. "Commander, your species has conquered 19 worlds. You have enslaved millions. You believe you are predators." She leaned forward slightly. "You are not predators. You are scavengers. You attack the weak because you are afraid of the strong. You have never faced a real predator in your entire history." Vorath's eyes narrowed. "And you are a predator?" "My species evolved on a world that tries to kill everything living on it," Chen said. "Our air is poison to most species. Our gravity crushes visitors from lighter worlds. We have diseases that could wipe out your entire population. Our ancestors were hunted by monsters, so they became better monsters. They chased their prey across entire continents, not stopping until the prey dropped dead from exhaustion." She stood up. "We are called Deathworlders for a reason, Commander. And you just threatened a species under our protection." The timer reached 0. "All ships," Chen said into her communicator. "Execute." Behind the Kreth fleet, 12 destroyers opened fire at once. They targeted the engine cores of the rear ships first. The explosions were silent in the vacuum of space, but they were beautiful. Bright flowers of fire blooming in the dark. The Kreth fleet, which had been facing the Retribution, suddenly found death coming from behind. Vorath screamed orders. His ships tried to turn. They danced between the larger Kreth vessels, striking and retreating, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. And while the Kreth fleet turned to face this new threat, Admiral Chen's flagship moved forward, toward Vorath's command ship. "She is insane," Vorath whispered, watching the single human ship advance toward his guns. "Open fire! Destroy her!" Every weapon in the Kreth fleet that could target the Retribution fired at once. Missiles, energy beams, explosive shells. The Retribution kept coming. Vorath watched his weapons strike the human ship again and again. He saw armor plates break away. He saw fires burning on the hull. But the ship kept coming. It was built by Deathworlders, after all. It was built to survive. On the surface of Valan Prime, Ambassador Lyrith stood in the ruins of the Capitol building. The glass dome above his head was shattered. Cold wind blew through the broken walls. Around him, hundreds of his people huddled together for warmth. For 7 days, the Kreth had bombed their cities. Hospitals were burning. Schools were dust. The beautiful, glowing forests that surrounded the capital had been turned to ash. Lyrith was old. He had lived a long life, filled with peace and learning. He had never imagined he would die like this, watching his world be destroyed. Then the bombing stopped. Lyrith looked up at the sky through the broken dome. The Kreth ships were still up there. He could see their dark shapes blocking the stars. But they were not firing anymore. Instead, he saw something else. Flashes of light. Bright explosions in the darkness. Not bombs falling down, but fire spreading across the sky itself. "What is happening?" Syra whispered beside him. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Lyrith did not answer. He could not understand what he was seeing. But somewhere deep in his chest, something he had not felt in days began to grow. Hope. In space, the battle had become a slaughter. The Kreth had never faced an enemy like this. Their war doctrine was built on simple ideas. Bring more ships than the enemy. Attack from the front. Crush them with numbers. Humans did not fight this way. The 12 destroyers behind the Kreth fleet did not stay still. They moved constantly, using the Kreth's own ships as cover. They would appear from behind one warship, fire their weapons, and disappear before the Kreth could respond. Captain Marcus Okonkwo watched his tactical display with calm eyes. His ship, the Vengeance, had already destroyed 4 Kreth vessels. His crew moved with practiced efficiency. No wasted movement. No panic. Target the ammunition storage on that cruiser, Marcus ordered. 1 shot. Make it count. His weapons officer pressed a button. A single missile launched. It flew between 2 Kreth warships, curved around a third, and struck the cruiser exactly where its missiles were stored. The explosion was massive. The cruiser broke apart, and pieces of it struck 2 nearby ships, damaging them both. "Beautiful," Marcus said quietly. "Next target." Sighed. "Next target." The Kreth commanders were screaming at each other on open channels. Their formation had collapsed. They were firing wildly, sometimes hitting their own ships by accident. They could not understand how such a small force was causing so much damage. They did not understand human ships. The vessels of the United Earth Navy were built differently than any other ships in the galaxy. Most species built their ships to be comfortable. They made them light and fast. With thin walls and delicate systems, humans built their ships to survive. The walls were thick, made of layers of metal and ceramic designed to absorb damage. The systems were redundant, which meant that if one system failed, 2 more could take its place. The ships were heavy and hard to turn, but they could take punishment that would destroy any other vessel. This was because humans came from a dangerous world. Earth had crushing gravity that other species could barely survive. Its atmosphere was full of oxygen, a gas so reactive that it could burn metal. Its weather created storms that leveled cities and waves that swallowed ships. Humans had evolved to survive this world, and they built their ships the same way. At the center of the battle, Admiral Chen's flagship, the Retribution, proved this point perfectly. The ship was burning in several places. 3 of its engines were destroyed. Holes had been blown in its hull. Any other vessel would have been dead long ago. The Retribution kept flying. "Damage report," Admiral Chen said calmly. "Engines 3, 4, and 7 are gone," her first officer replied. "Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Sealed and contained. Weapons systems at 70%. 70% is more than enough," Chen said. "Close to 300 meters from the enemy flagship. Admiral, that is inside their minimum weapon range. They will not be able to fire at us without hitting themselves." "I know," Chen smiled. "That is the point. Prepare the boarding pods." This was the part of human warfare that terrified other species most. Humans did not just destroy enemy ships from a distance. Sometimes, they got close. Sometimes, they went inside. The Retribution came so close to Voreth's flagship that they could almost touch. At this range, the massive guns of the Kreth ship were useless. They could not aim low enough to hit the human vessel. "Fire boarding pods," Chen ordered. Small craft launched from the Retribution. They crossed the gap in seconds and struck the hull of Vorath's ship, burning through the metal with shaped charges. Holes appeared in the Kreth flagship, and through those holes, human soldiers poured inside. Sergeant Major Elena Vasquez was the first through. She was not a large woman. She stood about 170 centimeters tall and weighed 70 kilograms. Her muscles were strong, but not bulky. Her face was plain. If you saw her on a street, you would not notice her. But she was a Deathworlder. She had grown up in Earth's heavy gravity. She had trained her body to fight for hours without rest. She carried weapons designed to kill creatures much larger than herself. The first Kreth warrior she met stood 3 meters tall. It had 4 arms, each ending in claws that could cut through metal. Its body was covered in natural armor plates. Elena killed it in 4 seconds. She did not try to match its strength. She was faster. She ducked under its first swing, put 2 shots into the gap in its armor at the neck, and moved to the next target before the body hit the ground. Behind her, more human soldiers advanced. They moved in teams, covering each other, communicating with short hand signals. They did not speak. They did not need to. They had trained together for years. They knew what each person would do without being told. The Kreth fought back. They were not cowards. They were warriors who had conquered many worlds. They knew how to fight, but they had never fought humans. The problem was simple. A Kreth warrior could fight at full strength for about 3 minutes. After that, its muscles began to tire. Its reactions slowed. It needed to rest. Humans were different. Humans were persistent predators. Their ancestors had hunted by chasing prey until the prey was too tired to run anymore. This could take hours, sometimes days. A human soldier could fight at high intensity for much longer than any Kreth, and when their muscles got tired, they did not stop. They had something in their blood called adrenaline. It pushed back the exhaustion. It let them keep fighting through pain and tiredness. The Kreth warriors began to fall back. Then they began to run, and the humans followed. Commander Vorath could hear the fighting getting closer. The sounds of weapons fire echoed through the corridors of his flagship. The screams of his warriors mixed with the sharp crack of human guns. He stood in his command center, surrounded by his personal guard. These were the best warriors in his fleet. Each one had killed hundreds of enemies. Each one wore scars like medals of honor. "They are coming," his second-in-command said. The warrior's voice was steady, but Vorath could see fear in his eyes. "They have killed everything in their path. Nothing stops them." Vorath drew his blade. It was a ceremonial weapon, passed down through his family for generations. He had used it to kill the leaders of 3 conquered species. "Then we will stop them here," Vorath said. "We are Kreth. We do not run from small creatures." The door to the command center exploded inward. Sergeant Major Elena Vasquez came through the smoke like a ghost. Her armor was covered in violet Kreth blood. Her rifle was empty, discarded somewhere in the corridors behind her. In her hands, she held only a combat knife. Behind her, more human soldiers entered. There were only 8 of them left from the original boarding party of 30. The others had fallen in the ship's corridors. But these 8 had pushed through. Vorath's personal guard attacked at once. 12 of the finest Kreth warriors, each one 3 meters tall, each one armed with blades and claws, and years of combat experience. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. Elena moved through the Kreth guards like water through rocks. She did not try to block their attacks. She was too small for that. Instead, she dodged. She ducked. She slid between their legs and struck at the soft places in their armor. Human soldiers learned to fight against larger enemies from the day they began training. Earth's history was full of stories about small groups defeating larger forces. Humans called this the way of the underdog. They had been doing it for thousands of years. When the last guard fell, Elena stood in front of Vorath. She was breathing hard. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead. One of her arms hung at an angle that suggested broken bones. She did not seem to notice. Vorath swung his ceremonial blade. It was a good swing, fast and powerful. It should have cut the human in half. Elena stepped to the side. The blade missed her by centimeters. Before Vorath could swing again, she was inside his guard. Her knife found the gap between his armor plates at the hip. The pain was incredible. Vorath had been wounded before, but never like this. The human knew exactly where to cut. She had studied Kreth anatomy. She knew their weak points. He fell to his knees. His blade clattered to the floor. Elena stood over him. Her knife was wet with his blood. "It is over," she said. Her voice was calm. Not angry. Not excited. Just stating a fact. Vorath looked up at her. This small creature. This thing from a world of poison and death. She had invaded his ship. She had killed his best warriors. She had defeated him. "How?" he whispered. "You are so small. So weak." Elena tilted her head. "Weak?" She almost smiled. "Your species looks at size and sees strength. You look at claws and see danger. But you do not understand what makes a true predator." She knelt down so her eyes were level with his. "It is not about size. It is about will. It is about refusing to stop. My ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size. They did not have claws or fangs. They had patience. They would chase their prey for days, never stopping, never resting, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion." She held up her knife. "We have been perfecting the art of killing things bigger than us for 200,000 years. You never had a chance." From outside, the sounds of battle had stopped. The human fleet had destroyed or disabled every Kreth warship. Only 3 had escaped into faster-than-light travel. Elena had ordered her forces to let them go. "Your fleet is gone," she told Vorath. 3 ships escaped. We let them leave on purpose. They will carry a message back to your dominion." "What message?" Vorath asked. His voice was weak. He was losing blood. Elena leaned closer. "The Velani are under Earth's protection now. So is every other species that the Galactic Concord was too afraid to defend. If your dominion comes back to this sector, if you threaten any species under our protection, we will not just destroy your fleet." Her eyes were cold, steady, without mercy. "We will come to your homeworld. We will walk on your soil. And we will hunt your species the way our ancestors hunted the wolves of Earth. Patiently, relentlessly. We will not stop until the Kreth Dominion is nothing but a story other species tell to scare their children." Vorath had conquered 19 worlds. He had killed thousands. He had never known fear. He knew it now. "You are monsters," he said. Elena stood up. "No, we are Deathworlders, and we protect what is ours." She turned to her soldiers. "Get the commander to the medical bay. Keep him alive. He needs to deliver our message personally." As the human soldiers lifted Vorath and carried him away, he saw Admiral Chen's face appear on a screen. She was giving orders to her fleet. Her expression was calm, professional. These creatures had just destroyed 200 warships and killed thousands of Kreth warriors, and they acted like it was just another day. Vorath finally understood what the Galactic Concord had been afraid of. It was not just human strength. It was not just their technology or their tactics. It was their calm. Their cold, perfect efficiency. They killed without anger. They destroyed without passion. They did what needed to be done, and then they moved on. This was true ruthlessness. Not hot rage, but cold purpose. The Kreth Dominion had picked the wrong species to threaten. Far below, on the surface of Valen Prime, Ambassador Lyrith watched human shuttles descending from the sky. They brought food, medicine, engineers to rebuild what had been destroyed. The soldiers who stepped out of the shuttles were small. Some of them were even smiling. They did not look like the monsters the galaxy had warned him about. They looked like rescuers. Lyrith fell to his knees and wept. 3 months passed. After the Battle of Valen Prime, the news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Kreth Dominion had sent 200 warships to conquer a peaceful world. The humans had sent 17 ships to stop them. Only 3 Kreth vessels had escaped. When Commander Voreth returned to Kreth space, he was a broken creature. The wounds on his body had healed, but something inside him had not. He told the leaders of the Dominion what he had seen. He told them about the humans. He told them about their cold eyes, and their quiet voices, and their perfect, terrible efficiency. The Kreth Dominion announced that it would not expand toward human-protected space. Not now, not ever. On Valen Prime, the rebuilding had begun. Human engineers worked beside Velani construction crews. Human doctors treated the wounded in temporary hospitals. Human soldiers stood guard at the borders of the system, watching for any sign of threat. Ambassador Lyrith walked through the ruins of his capital city with Admiral Chen at his side. She was even smaller in person than she had seemed on the screens. The top of her head barely reached his chest. "Why?" he asked her. It was the question that had been in his mind for 3 months. "Why did you come? We are strangers to you. We have nothing to offer. We cannot repay you for what you have done." Admiral Chen looked up at the sky. Human ships still orbited the planet, dark shapes against the stars. "On Earth, we have an old saying," she said. "It goes like this. The only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing." She looked at Lyrith. Her eyes were kind. Tired, but kind. "We have made many mistakes in our history. We have done terrible things to each other. Wars that killed millions. Cruelty that still shames us. But somewhere along the way, we learned something important. We learned that strength means nothing if you do not use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Galactic Concord was afraid to help us," Lyrith said. "They said the Kreth were too strong." Chen smiled. "The Concord has never faced true predators. They evolved on safe worlds, gentle worlds. They do not understand that sometimes you have to fight. Sometimes running and hiding is not enough." She touched Lyrith's arm gently. Her hand was small and soft. It was hard to believe this was the same creature who had commanded the destruction of a fleet. "Humans are different," she said. "We evolved on a world that wanted to kill us. Every animal, every disease, even the weather. We survived because we refused to give up. We fought back against everything. And now we are strong enough to help others fight back too." 3 weeks later, Ambassador Lyrith stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Concord. Representatives of 400 species filled the Great Hall. They watched in silence as Lyrith walked to the central platform. "We asked for help," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. One species answered. He let the words sink in. Around the hall, delegates shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had refused to help the Velani. Many of them had been too afraid. The humans did not ask for payment. Lyrith continued. They did not demand territory or resources or special treatment. They came because we called for help. They fought because we could not fight for ourselves. And when it was over, they asked for only one thing. He paused. The hall was completely silent. They asked us to extend the same protection to others. Lyrith gestured toward the human delegation. Admiral Chen sat among them, surrounded by beings twice her size. She looked calm, peaceful, like a grandmother at a family dinner. It was easy to forget what she had done. Easy to forget what her species could do. "Humans call themselves Deathworlders," Lyrith said. "They come from a world of poison and fire and crushing gravity. By all logic, they should have died millions of years ago. Instead, they became something else. Something we need." He looked around the chamber. The Galactic Concord was built on fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of war. Fear of species, like the Kreth. We thought that if we avoided violence, violence would avoid us. His voice grew stronger. We were wrong. The Kreth did not care about our peaceful ways. They saw our weakness, and they attacked. And we had nothing to fight back with. 7. And he pointed at the human delegation. They are offering us something new. Not conquest. Not domination. Protection. They want to create a coalition of species. Anyone who joins will be under human protection. The strong will defend the weak. The warriors will stand with the peaceful. The hall erupted in whispers. Some delegates looked hopeful. Others looked afraid. Some looked at the humans like they were looking at wild animals. Admiral Chen stood. The whispers stopped. "We are not asking you to become warriors," she said. Her voice was soft, but carried through the entire chamber. "We are asking you to let us be warriors for you. We know what we are. We know what our nature is. But we have learned to use that nature for good." She looked around the room. "The Kreth will not attack Velani space again. The 3 ships that escaped have carried our message back to their leaders. They know what will happen if they return." She smiled. It was a gentle smile, a kind smile. Other species like the Kreth exist out there. Slavers, conquerors. They have been taking what they want for thousands of years, because no one could stop them. We can stop them. We will stop them. All we ask is that you let us help. The Concord voted that day. 400 species. The vote took 7 hours. The result was unanimous. The Terran Protectorate was born. 37 species joined immediately. Within a year, that number grew to 112. Within 5 years, 230. The galaxy changed. Slaver empires retreated to their own borders. Pirate fleets disappeared. Aggressive species looked at their weaker neighbors and saw not easy prey, but potential members of the Protectorate. They saw the threat of human ships appearing in their sky, human soldiers walking their corridors, human efficiency taking apart everything they had built. They decided it was not worth the risk. On Earth, Admiral Chen retired from the Navy. She moved to a small house near the ocean and spent her days gardening and playing with her grandchildren. Reporters sometimes came to ask her about the Battle of Valen Prime. She always gave them the same answer. "We did what we always do," she would say. "We saw something that needed protecting, and we protected it. That is not heroism. That is just being human." In the archives of the Galactic Concord, a new entry was added to the file on humanity. Below the scientific data about their toxic homeworld and their strange biology, someone had written a simple warning: do not threaten what they have chosen to protect. In the centuries that followed, many species would read those words. Some would ignore them. Some would test the humans. Some would try to find weaknesses in the Terran Protectorate. All of them would learn the same lesson. The Deathworlders did not make empty promises, and they never, ever stopped. Far across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, children of 100 different species grew up hearing stories about the humans, strange creatures from a world of death, monsters who chose to be protectors. They were the bogeymen that slavers feared. The hope that the weak held on to. The promise that no one was ever truly alone. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.